So it's been a good long while since I sat down and did an Omniscient Reader video, and I felt like today was a good day as ever because, for one, the latest arc within the series came to a close, and we're kind of gearing up for what is to come and what to expect. You know, basically our main male character completing his quest for Persephone and, slaying the multi-headed serpent Orochi, to also multiple things going on with Peaceland, to the symbolic nature of, what would the creator do if their story came to life. So many things like that. It legitimately was an incredible arc, and I kind of want to just sit down and talk about all the latest stuff that's happened, because honestly, I am just so pumped for what is going to happen next in the story, because it's a series I've been reading for over a year and a half now. I've made multiple videos on this series, and I know many of you guys that watch my channel have definitely watched this series, like these videos I have made on the series, and, have read this series. It's a really, really good story, like legitimately, and I've loved the progression of the characters, the slow, gradual build up to the mystery, how the side characters are used, just everything about the way this story is presented. It is just something that always makes me excited, because honestly, at this current point in time, like, my favorite, webtoons to read on a weekly basis ever since Hardcore Leveling Warrior ended would be this series and Unordinary, Incarcerate. I love those three series a lot, and Your Throne as well, actually. I don't know why I didn't mention that one, but those series are some of my favorites to read, and Omniscient Reader really does a good job with balancing power fantasy and also making it to where the characters have to struggle to overcome the impossible. I think that the series just does a great way of balancing all of this out. Now, anyways, let's get into the actual current content of what is going on, or what happened within the arc. So one of the big themes, the overarching themes of Peaceland that, we were kind of, reading throughout this arc, is that, basically our characters got a very unique circumstance of being a catastrophe. Which, as we all know, if you've been reading, Omniscient Reader, our characters are constantly having to deal with catastrophes that are world-ending events, so to speak, or complete destruction of humanity, or their life, etc. They're always having to deal with these type of events. And in the last arc, we saw, the Beast Lord and all that, and it was a huge emotional arc with all of that was going on. Also the introduction of, Persephone and Hades and all that, with that build up for what the arc we're currently in is for. And basically, when you see, everything that's happened with Peaceland and how our characters got to be catastrophes, it really mixes up the story a bit and makes you see everything from a very different perspective. And I feel like it makes things very refreshing because, for one, our characters are met with a very big moral dilemma. Do they become a catastrophe and basically wipe out all the inhabitants in this new world that they were transported to, or do they straight up side with them and help them? And obviously our main characters side with the people and don't want them to get completely obliterated / exterminated. But I do want to mention the overarching themes of it and how it's kind of like Attack on Titan situation a little bit, but a lesser extent, not as detailed in my personal opinion, but it is kind of like an Attack on Titan situation where you have two sides, obviously, they're fighting for their survival, fighting for what they want, and I do like that little back and forth between, the people that were once, trying to save their own selves and all that are now catastrophes and having an easy scenario to bring people down. It's legitimately fascinating. I legit love just the art because of that, and how, if they would have fed into the darker desires and stuff, they would even get a power-up and be incredibly powerful and strong thanks to the system, and take everyone out that was on the planet. Now, anyways, besides that, we need to talk about how the world came about, etc., and kind of what this arc really does experiment with, and hints that towards the conclusion, so to speak, of the story. So basically, Peaceland was created by this author called, Asuka Ren. I believe that's her full name. And she's basically within, the verse of, Omniscient Reader. She was transported to that world, and she's like, oh, this is the world I created in a comic. Somehow it got, brought to life, and here it is. And basically, she at first, before all this happened, she looked at her creation, this world she wrote and created in a comic / manga form. She looked at it and she was upset with it. She wasn't satisfied with how the series turned out. But as she was transported to that world, regardless of, her detachment or basically not really satisfied with how it ended up because of, low readership, etc., she felt responsible because at one point in time, or even to that point in time, she was technically the god of that world. She created that story and all these characters within it, and now they're at the brink of, extinction itself because, the people have been transported to that world just to wipe them out. And it brings up a very interesting question. What would creators do if they saw their very creation getting annihilated, destroyed, etc.? Like, a good example of this, let's think of, One Piece, okay? Let's just think about this. Let's say, Oda, for some reason or whatsoever, he's transported within One Piece, it make you wonder, like, how would he view that? That, he's crafted this entire world, he's done everything, make these characters, etc., and he was transported to that world, and then he had to answer for some of the things that's happened within that verse, maybe some dark things that's happened, how would he react to that, knowing technically he's theoretically the god of that world? And I think that, the arc, Peaceland, does a really good job with that, bringing these questions to light. It makes you also wonder what the writer of, the actual Omniscient Reader, like the whole shebang of what's going on here, what was he thinking when he wrote the world, and all of this kind of got brought to life. Just, there's a lot of questions that really pop up in my head. But anyways, backing up from all of that, though, let's talk about the actual goal of the arc. So the goal of the arc was, like I said, already to be a catastrophe or side with the people of the world, basically these little people. And if, they sided, they would also become little people and have to fight, the people from their world that are basically like giants or titans from Attack on Titan, so to speak, to bring them down. And it was a hard-fought battle. Obviously, they won in the end, but actually seeing the final boss of the arc was pretty spectacular. Like, straight up, it was Orochi. And I think everybody knows who Orochi is, or at least has heard of him. He's very popular in a lot of different manga and literature. The multi-headed serpent, people kind of mistaken him for a Hydra as well, and it was the entity Orochi that was taken down by Susanoo in his blade, an ancient myth of Japan. So when you just see how the overarching story is and how Kim, our MC, takes Orochi down thanks to the help of a deity of that world, it's some pretty spectacular stuff. Like, honestly, I was just sitting back, I was listening to some crazy OSTs, like, I was listening to the OG Dragon Ball music while I was actually reading it, because I was like, man, this is getting me hyped, and I love that. When I'm able to kind of immerse myself and get myself into a story, I just absolutely fell in love with what this arc had to actually do. Okay, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's back up for a second, okay? Let's talk about some other stuff besides just, obviously, the beautiful action and all that. So, one thing in particular that, obviously, this arc is set up for the future, besides, obviously, the Persephone stuff and having to slay the serpent for Persephone, for our main character can be able to have access to her, and also the underworld, aka Hades and all that. Basically, besides that, our MC has made multiple fables, aka legends and stories, and if you've been reading Omniscient Reader, obviously you know what this is. And for the man to have multiple fables under his belt, like, 4 now, and he only needs 1 more to be able to actually become a constellation, it makes me wonder what direction the story's going to go. Does the MC Kim actually want to become a constellation? I mean, we've already seen demonstrated multiple times throughout the story that constellations are huge. They can be damaged, hurt, etc., but at the same time, constellations are very, very powerful, and they watch these star streams to be able to, just bet on them, make money, etc. And I do wonder, if our MC becomes a constellation, would he still be allowed to participate within the star stream, or would he be completely booted out and he would have to just watch from the sidelines? Or would he actually have access to all these crazy powers while being a part of it? So many questions, honestly. But I do think that that whole little shebang right there that's being built up is definitely going to be something in the future to really twist the story in a direction that probably none of us actually expected, because there is still a lot to really learn about the verse, a lot of mysteries, and now that our characters can be technically transported to other worlds, etc., and have to be maybe a catastrophe, makes you wonder if one of our characters eventually might become a catastrophe, one of our main characters besides the Beast Lord, and, even Kim, maybe, our MC, and they'll have to, stop him or whatever reason. So we'll have to see on that one. But, yeah, overall, Omniscient Reader is just straight up fun. I have had so much fun reading this series, and I think, everybody that, has read the series can agree with me. It's really fun to read on a weekly basis. I wish more chapters came out, honestly. I know that there is an original source, like a light novel or a web novel or whatever, and I know that, from what I hear, it's complete. I've been wanting to actually read that. I legit have, but, I just kind of stuck with the comic so far and been reading it, but, Yeah, man, it's hard holding back from reading ahead because of just how good this show is, or this series is. But anyways, with that, I guess I'll leave the video there. If you enjoyed this video, and if you would like to read the series as well, and the latest chapters, etc., link is in the description. You know, it's legal, it's free, so don't worry, and all that. But anyways, be safe, stay healthy, Chibi out.